Hi, I'm Dr. Kendall Stewart, and I'm very glad that Neurobiologix invited me here today. And actually, in this video, we're going to talk about one of the hardest questions that I get thrown, mostly from the family of my patients. Because once a patient comes to see me, I think they have a pretty good idea of what's going on, but invariably they go home and they want to talk to their family, an extended family who may have problems with other neuro-immune syndromes, and they just don't know where to go or how to go about it, or they don't have the money to come and see me in Texas. So let me just see if I can walk you through this process. Now, we obviously see lots of kids with autism, ADD, ADHD, and the autistic spectrum disorders. Now, I'd like to try to get away from calling those autistic spectrum disorders and really get to the foundation of the problem. After having vast experience in diseases like autism and other neurological diseases, we have become aware that actually nervous system and immune system abnormalities occur together. And we typically define this group of abnormalities as neuro-immune syndromes. Now, neuro-immune syndromes encompass a lot of disorders that can include a primary nervous system problem, a primary immune system problem, or a combination of both. Now, obviously in children we deal with autism, ADD, ADHD, sometimes mitochondrial disorders or tone weakness, difficulty walking, developmental delay. And in older adults we deal with diseases or syndromes that typically involve problems with pain, or like fibromyalgia or polymyositis, problems with tremors, problems with cognitive function like Alzheimer's and dementia, maybe deteriorative diseases like multiple sclerosis. So all of those are classified as neuroimmune syndromes. Now, the problem with neuroimmune syndromes is there's really not a man-made medicine that can actually cure these problems. And I became very aware of that many years ago when I realized the only way that we were actually going to cure these issues was actually to find out what was missing in the body of these patients and actually replace that. So in order for you to understand how to get started when you don't have access to a doctor who is knowledgeable in these problems, we need to understand exactly what's going on. Now, what I want you to understand about most of these disorders is that there is a genetic pattern that is present in the family. Now, this genetic pattern consists of two major abnormalities. The first one being a fairly massive vitamin D deficiency, which is almost universal, and also a methylation deficiency. Now, a methylation deficiency is a kind of a complex problem that many people have heard of but don't quite understand. But the problem with a methylation deficient patient, which is at least 93% of the patients that we see with these disorders, and typically can give us problems with the three major elements of healing. So if I back up a little bit, I want to tell you that no matter where we try to heal the body, there are three separate criteria that we must meet in order to heal the body in any form or fashion. The first criteria is controlling inflammation. Now, inflammation usually comes from some type of infectious process, outside chemical, or something that really has set off a stimulation of the immune system. Now, the most common in autism, for instance, would be, and nervous system diseases, would be viral irritation. So in order to get started, we have to, when we suspect of some form of infectious agent, we have to use a supplement called neuro-immune infection control. Now, we have prescriptive agents for most of these, but if you don't have access to a physician, neuro-immune infection control basically brings together the best of the natural world at controlling viruses, bacteria, and fungus, and also blood sugars. It contains grapeseed extract, grapefruit seed extract, olive leaf extract, bee propolis, and it also has monolaurin and lysine in it to help fight viral infections. The other oils or extracts are very good at suppressing yeast and bacterial infections pretty much anywhere in the body. Secondarily, in order for us to overcome these processes, we have to have an immune system that is working properly. If you do not have an immune system that's working properly, inflammation is almost impossible to overcome. In neuroimmune syndromes, the methylation deficiency is very, very common. In fact, over 90% present. And we have learned that a methylation deficiency is actually an abnormal, a problem with abnormal conversion of certain important vitamins, namely B12 and folic acid. In order for those two vitamins to actually penetrate the nervous system and the immune system, they have to be converted into their methyl forms. That would be methylfolate and methyl B12. And so we have created neuro-immune stabilizer, which basically is a lotion that goes through your skin. And the reason we have to go through in a transdermal application is because we cannot absorb methylfolate very well from an oral route. Our body essentially absorbs folic acid. It is converted within the body or refined into methylfolate and is then sent into the nervous system and immune system. But in people with methylation deficiencies, the conversion is not as good as it should be, and therefore we have to supplement. So neuroimmune stabilizer has methyl B12, hydroxy B12, methylfolate in the form of folinic acid, a little bit of B6, and also has vitamin D. So it's designed as a complete solution. Inflammation sources are also in the bowel, and so many times we have to use a very potent and actually effective probiotic. I would recommend Neurobiologix Biotic Boost. Now, once we've controlled inflammation in these patients, the second criteria for us to heal anything in the body is to actually have energy. Energy in cells is provided by mitochondria. Mitochondria are the little batteries of cells, and the easiest way for us to clinically tell if you have a mitochondrial weakness is actually by muscle tone. If you have significant fatigability as an adult, that could be a process of mitochondrial disruption. But in children, low muscle tone is probably by far the easiest way to tell if your child has weak mitochondria. Muscle tone is our primary gauge of mitochondrial dysfunction in these children because muscles will contain up to 100 mitochondria per cell. Whereas nerves, in the nervous system, most cells have anywhere from 4 to 6 mitochondria. So if you have a muscle who has a cell which has 100 batteries in it that are not working well, you can pretty much assume that a nervous system cell, which only has 4 to 6 mitochondria, is not going to function very well at all. If you suspect that your child does have mitochondrial weakness, we have put together an all-inclusive formula called Mitochondrial Restore. Mitochondrial Restore basically has 12 different elements in it that are all known to help and assist with mitochondrial recovery. It is all put together because in order for you to essentially recover a mitochondria, it's almost impossible for you to keep up with all the moving parts that are required, and so we put it all into one bottle. Adults will use 2 capsules of it, and and children will typically recommend 1. Now the third criteria is actually proper nutrition. So the 3 criteria, if we can review that, are control inflammation. The second criteria is to provide energy for the cell. The third criteria is to provide the proper nutrition. Now, the proper nutrition means that we have to have the right vitamins to actually utilize the hormones that deliver nutrition to the cell, in particular what we call the growth hormones or growth factors. Many of the cofactors or necessary elements to make those growth factors work well is actually found in the neuroimmune stabilizer. We also need the child to eat well. In that process that we use supplementation and additional nutrition through supplementation to overcome the lack of variety or lack of quantity in their diet. I want you to remember that when your child has a neuroimmune syndrome, or as an adult if you have a neuroimmune syndrome, that you are essentially in a crisis. You are not in a slow, methodical, deteriorative state. You're actually in a crisis, kind of like a child or a person having a car wreck or undergoing a major surgery. The body is into a significantly abnormal state, and you have to be fairly aggressive to pull them back out. Well, I hope this video has helped you, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.